Have you ever felt a silent alarm bell ring in the presence of someone new? A dissonance in the air that you couldn't quite name but could feel in your bones. It is a subtle but persistent sense of unease, an invisible atmospheric pressure that seems to descend whenever they enter a room, as if their very presence leaches the color and warmth from the space, leaving behind a sterile and unnerving quiet. You try to dismiss it as your own unfounded prejudice or a momentary lapse in social grace. Yet the feeling lingers, a quiet whisper from your intuition that something is profoundly and fundamentally amiss. This is the first, almost imperceptible tremor before the earthquake, the initial faint scent of smoke before the fire is visible, a primal warning system alerting you that you are in the vicinity of a force that does not wish you well. It's a feeling that logic struggles to justify, but that your spirit recognizes with ancient certainty. The most dangerous individuals we will ever meet will not greet us with a menacing snarl or the overt theatrics of a storybook villain. Their brand of malevolence is far more insidious, for it is cloaked in the mundane and the familiar. They will greet us with a smile, their words dipped in honeyed charm, and their initial gestures will often be mistaken for profound kindness or helpfulness. Evil in its most contemporary and effective form has mastered the art of camouflage. It does not announce its arrival with thunder and lightning, but slips into our lives like a phantom unnoticed and often welcomed. These are the people who require no tangible reason or provocation to inflict harm. The act of causing pain is not a means to an end, but an end in itself, a deep-seated function of their very nature. They are masters of manipulation, architects of deception, and puppeteers of control, achieving their aims not through overt force or physical coercion, but through the slow, methodical erosion of the things you hold most dear, your confidence in your own judgment, your inner peace, and ultimately, your very perception of reality. What if the very fabric of your reality, your peace of mind, and your emotional well-being could be protected by learning to decipher a hidden language, a set of signals that these individuals unwittingly transmit? In the wisdom of Stoicism, we are taught the paramount importance of guarding our minds and fortifying our spirits of discerning with clarity what lies within our control and what lies outside of it. Perhaps one of the most critical and life-affirming skills we can ever cultivate is the ability to identify those who carry harmful intent before they can breach our defenses and embed themselves within our lives. Evil is a master of disguise, its true face rarely seen until the damage is already done and its roots have dug deep into our emotional soil. But there is a profound and empowering truth to be found here. Evil, for all its cunning, is not invisible. It leaves a trail of clues. It broadcasts its nature through clear, discernible warning signs. Red flags that, if you learn to pay meticulous attention, will cut through the fog of charm and deception to reveal the stark truth of a person's character. Recognizing these signs is not merely an act of avoiding pain. It is a profound act of self-reclamation, a way to reclaim your strength, preserve your sanity, and protect the sanctity of your inner world. This is a journey into the heart of perception, a masterclass in recognizing 6 powerful red flags that will expose the toxic, manipulative individuals who may be moving silently in your orbit. Learning to see these signs will not just shield you from future harm, it will empower you to heal from past wounds and to move forward with the unshakable confidence of someone who knows how to protect their own peace. The first and most foundational red flag, the bedrock upon which all other manipulations are built, is their constant and pathological relationship with lying and the manipulation of truth. For a person of sound character, truth is the essential currency of trust, the invisible thread that weaves together the fabric of any healthy relationship, be it with a friend, a partner, or a family member. Without it, the entire structure is doomed to unravel and collapse. A genuinely malicious individual, however, holds no such reverence for the truth. Their dishonesty is not a reluctant tool they employ in moments of desperation. It is their native language, their default mode of operation, a fundamental way of life. They lie not simply because they feel a need to, but because they possess a deep-seated want to. Deception for them is not merely a strategy. It is an art form, a source of power, and a demonstration of their perceived superiority. They deploy lies to manipulate your emotions, to control the narrative of your shared experiences, and to keep you in a perpetual state of uncertainty, forcing you to constantly question what is real and what is a carefully constructed fiction. This constant state of cognitive dissonance is precisely where they want you, as a mind in confusion is a mind ripe for control. At the outset, their falsehoods may appear innocuous, almost trivial. They might present themselves as small, harmless exaggerations, a slight recoloring of an event here, a minor distortion of a fact there, easily dismissed as a quirk or a momentary lapse in memory. But as time progresses, a disturbing and undeniable pattern begins to emerge, a consistent tapestry of deceit that becomes impossible to ignore. You will witness them state something with the utmost confidence and conviction, one day only to flatly and indignantly deny ever having said it the next, especially when confronted with the inconsistency. If you persist and push back, presenting evidence or recalling the moment with clarity, they will not concede or show remorse. Instead, they will masterfully turn the tables. They will become the offended party, accusing you of misremembering the facts, of being overly sensitive, and reading into things, or in a truly classic maneuver of making things up entirely. And with each of these defensive onslaughts, a small seed of doubt begins to creep into the fertile soil of your mind. You start to ask yourself, maybe I did misunderstand them. Perhaps I am overthinking this whole situation. Am I the one who is being unreasonable? This internal questioning is the precise goal of their campaign. It is the trap they have so expertly set. A truly malicious and skilled liar does not merely deceive you about external events. Their ultimate project is to reshape your internal reality. They engage in a toxic psychological warfare known as gaslighting, twisting past events with such skill and conviction that you begin to fundamentally second-guess your own memory, your own intuition, and your own sanity. One moment you are standing on the solid ground of a truth you know with certainty. The next you are adrift in a disorienting fog of confusion, unable to find your bearings. This is not an accidental byproduct of their dishonesty. It is the entire point. They understand on a primal level that a confused mind is an easily controlled mind. Take a moment to reflect on the times they could have easily told the truth, moments where honesty would have cost them nothing, where a simple, straightforward account of events would have sufficed. Yet even in these low-stakes situations, they chose the path of deception. The question you must ask is why? It is because for them, lying is not merely a tool for avoiding trouble or consequence. It is an assertion of power. They lie to create and maintain an advantage, to constantly test the boundaries of your credulity, to see just how much they can get away with before you break. They will fabricate elaborate stories, twist your own words back at you, and distort indisputable facts, not because they are compelled to by circumstance, but simply because they can. And perhaps the most unsettling and chilling aspect of this behavior is the complete and utter absence of guilt. They feel no remorse for their deception, no shame for the confusion they cause. A student of Stoic philosophy understands that clarity of mind, or prohairesis, is the cornerstone of a virtuous and tranquil life. If someone in your life is constantly manipulating the truth, they are not just being dishonest. They are actively waging a war against your mental clarity. They are dangerous. Every single interaction with such a person transforms into a high-stakes game, a grueling mental battlefield that leaves you feeling exhausted, emotionally drained, and perpetually unsure of what is real. And that is the exact state they want you in. But you must remember that you do not have to participate in their game. If someone you know consistently fits this pattern of behavior, do not dismiss it as a mere bad habit or a minor flaw in their character. It is a monumental red flag waving violently in your face, demanding your attention. The longer you tolerate their deceit, the more control they will inevitably gain over your thoughts, your emotions, and your fundamental sense of reality. So ask yourself the hard questions. Are you constantly questioning your own perception when you are around this person? Do you feel a persistent sense of unease, a feeling that something is always slightly off, even if you can't articulate exactly what it is? If the answer to these questions is a resounding yes, you must take a step back. Protect your mind as if it were a fortress, and most importantly, learn to trust your instincts again. Because a person of this nature will never willingly hand you the truth. It is up to you and you alone to see it for yourself. Another sure and revealing sign that you are dealing with an individual whose intentions are far from virtuous is their unyielding and passionate devotion to discord. While the vast majority of people instinctively strive for harmony in their social interactions, preferring to resolve disputes with kindness, or at the very least to maintain a respectful and peaceful distance from turmoil, these conflict-loving personalities seem to be magnetically and inexplicably drawn to chaos. They orbit drama with the same self-destructive compulsion as a moth endlessly spiraling toward a scorching flame. In their wake, they consistently and skillfully sow the seeds of disharmony, quietly orchestrating drama from the shadows as if it were a grand and elaborate theatrical production for their own private amusement. And they take a profound, almost orgasmic delight in every single performance. In the spirit of the Stoic philosophers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, we learn that external events such as conflicts between people are often beyond our immediate control. However, our response to those events, our inner discipline, our rational judgment, and our resulting tranquility remain firmly within our power to govern. It is this very fortress of inner stability that these conflict enthusiasts aim to dismantle. They thrive on drama, feeding on the negative emotional energy and tension it creates, and they stand ever ready to nurture any fledgling misunderstanding into a full-blown conflict. Sometimes they require no real motive or personal gain. For them, causing chaos is reason enough. The dizzying swirl of arguments, the palpable rise in collective anxiety, the fracturing of once stable relationships, these are their trophies, the tangible evidence of their twisted and destructive craftsmanship. Consider the subtle and insidious ways they operate. They are masters of planting tiny poisonous seeds of doubt in your mind about the intentions or loyalty of others. They are experts at stirring up old, long-forgotten resentments that were better left buried. They may feign innocence, cloaking their actions in the guise of concern or helpfulness, but in truth, they are the architects of strife. Such a person will whisper carefully selected half-truths into the ears of mutual friends, skillfully fueling jealousy and suspicion where none existed before. A passing ambiguous comment here, a suggestive and meaningful glance there, and soon enough, a room that was once filled with camaraderie is now brimming with unspoken apprehension and mistrust. It's crucial to understand that they do not merely observe conflict from a distance. They actively orchestrate it. You will notice that when social gatherings take a sour and uncomfortable turn, you might catch a faint, almost imperceptible flicker of satisfaction on their face. It is a spark of triumph in their eyes that betrays the deep enjoyment they derive from witnessing everyone else's distress. Imagine a simple, pleasant family reunion. You are sharing laughter, reminiscing about fond memories, and enjoying good food. The atmosphere is warm and convivial. Then this person, with the precision of a trained sniper, drops a single perfectly timed remark. It may be a backhanded compliment, a loaded question, or an innocent observation that is specifically designed to provoke tension between two relatives. Within moments, the entire mood of the gathering shifts from one of warm camaraderie to one of silent, seething unease. It is almost as though they have been patiently waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike, meticulously planning their attack to cause the biggest possible disruption for the highest emotional impact. Meanwhile, as the fallout begins, they will quietly slip into the background, watching the confusion and hurt unfold with the detached interest of a spectator at a tragic play. You can practically feel the wave of disharmony wash over the gathering, a stark and chilling contrast to the harmony that had prevailed only moments before. A Stoic mindset teaches us that while we cannot control the emotional storms that other people choose to unleash, we can and must safeguard the tranquility of our own minds. Yet it is vital to note that this particular brand of conflict-driven individual does more than just stir the pot. They revel in the consequences. They savor the heartbreak, they feed on the tension, and they celebrate the fractured relationships' outcomes that to a person with a healthy conscience would be deeply unsettling and regrettable. If you were to confront them about their behavior, they will rarely, if ever, accept responsibility. Instead, they will employ a variety of evasive tactics. They might feign complete ignorance of their role in the conflict, claim that they were merely trying to be helpful by bringing things out into the open, or even masterfully paint themselves as the hapless victim in the entire affair. You might hear them say things like, "I don't know why everyone else is overreacting so much. I was just speaking my truth." In reality, their tactics are deliberate and calculated, targeting every delicate fault line in a relationship or a group dynamic that they can possibly exploit. Perhaps the most alarming and disturbing aspect of these provocateurs is their utter and profound disregard for empathy. They see no inherent worth in social harmony or genuine human connection. Rather, they view other people's emotions as a resource to be mined. They feed on the negative energy that conflict provides, relishing every tear that is shed and every friendship that is weakened or destroyed. To them, stirring up trouble is a form of entertainment, a dark and twisted sport. It serves as a constant and validating reminder that they wield a significant and intoxicating influence over the emotional states of others. Through this intentional generation of drama, they seize a sense of power, the very kind of external validation-seeking power that ancient Stoic teachings remind us to guard ourselves against by zealously maintaining our own composure and our unwavering moral center. Ultimately, your most effective and self-preserving strategy is to uphold the sacred boundaries of your inner peace. If you sense that someone in your orbit perpetually steers conversations towards confrontation, consistently manipulates situations to pit people against each other, or exhibits a suspiciously gleeful and energized attitude, whenever tensions run high, you must view this as the serious warning that it truly is. You deserve to be surrounded by individuals who value harmony, who practice respect, and who are capable of empathy, not by those who relish the act of sowing discord for the sheer sadistic thrill of watching other people suffer. Protect the sanctity of your mental and emotional well-being by taking a decisive step back and setting firm, unbreachable limits with such a person. The gift of life is far too precious and far too short to be squandered on those who treat human relationships as a stage for their ceaseless and destructive strife. As the Stoics advise, we must remain forever vigilant, consciously choosing what influences we allow into our inner circle, and when necessary, having the courage to walk away from those whose relentless pursuit of chaos can only serve to drag us down into their maelstrom of negativity. A third profoundly insidious red flag is the way these individuals make you feel like you are always at fault. A mind that is riddled with self-doubt is a mind that can be easily controlled. Truly malevolent people understand this principle on a deep, intuitive level, and that is why they so frequently employ one of the most insidious and damaging forms of psychological manipulation, gaslighting. They have no need for physical chains or overt threats to control you. All they require is a steady, relentless erosion of your confidence. a campaign of psychological warfare designed to make you question your own reality until you become utterly dependent on them to tell you what is true. This process is often so subtle at first that you barely notice it happening. It begins with small, almost imperceptible dismissals of your feelings. You express frustration about something they did or said, and they respond by telling you that you are overreacting. You recall a past event or conversation differently than they do, and they will insist with unshakable certainty that it never happened the way you remember it. You bring up something genuinely hurtful that they said, and they will scoff, labeling you as too sensitive. Over time, as these instances accumulate, you begin to internalize their narrative and second-guess yourself. A corrosive inner monologue begins to take hold. Did I really misunderstand the situation? Am I being too emotional and irrational? Maybe, just maybe, the problem isn't them at all. Maybe the problem is me. This conclusion, this self-blame, is the precise outcome they have been working towards. A person who genuinely cares about you, even if they disagree with your perspective, will at least listen to you. They will validate your right to feel the way you do and seek to find a common ground of understanding. But an evil person does not seek mutual understanding. They seek total dominance. Their ultimate goal is to make you feel emotionally unstable, perpetually uncertain of your own perceptions, and ultimately completely dependent on them for validation and for your sense of what is real. The more you are conditioned to doubt yourself, the more power and control they gain over you. Picture this common scenario: you find yourself in a disagreement with them, and you know with every fiber of your being that you are in the right. You remember the preceding conversation with crystal clarity, the exact words that were used, the tone in which they were delivered. But they will insist that you are mistaken. They will expertly twist the details, rewrite the sequence of events, and make you feel foolish and irrational for even bringing the issue up. Suddenly, you find that you are no longer defending your original point. You are forced into the exhausting position of defending your own sanity. The Stoic philosophers, particularly Epictetus, teach us to trust our faculty of reason to see things as they are without the coloration of our own biases or the manipulations of others, and to remain steadfast in what we know to be true. Gaslighting is a direct assault on this principle. It is specifically designed to pull you away from the solid ground of objective truth and to make you distrust the most fundamental tool you possess, your own judgment. And once you begin to habitually seek external validation for what you should already know deep down, you have effectively handed over the keys to your mind to someone else. If there is a person in your life who consistently makes you feel like you are the problem, if they habitually dismiss your emotions as invalid, and if they constantly distort your reality to fit their own narrative, you must take it as a serious and urgent warning. You do not owe your loyalty, your time, or your emotional energy to someone who systematically poisons your sense of self. It is imperative that you stand firm in your own perception. Trust your gut feelings. You are not crazy. You are not overreacting. And you absolutely do not need their permission to believe in your own reality. A fourth and deeply revealing red flag is their tendency to play the victim in every single situation. Life is inherently full of challenges, and hardship is an impartial force that spares no one. A strong, emotionally mature person confronts these difficulties with resilience, taking responsibility for their choices and learning from their mistakes. An evil person, however, takes a vastly different approach. They wear their victimhood like a suit of armor, using it to shield themselves from any and all accountability, while simultaneously wielding it as a potent weapon against others. In their world, nothing is ever their fault. They construct elaborate narratives in which they are the perpetual blameless sufferer. They blame the world, their difficult past, the people around them, anyone and everyone but themselves. When things inevitably go wrong in their lives, they do not engage in self-reflection or strive for personal growth. Instead, they point fingers, casting blame outwards in every direction. And worst of all, they expect you to uncritically buy into their sob story. They demand that you feel sorry for them, that you excuse their toxic behavior, and that you lower your standards for them because, after all, they have had it so incredibly hard. At first, this behavior may seem like harmless, if somewhat draining self-pity. You might feel a natural surge of empathy and a desire to help them. But over time, if you pay close attention, you will notice a persistent and troubling pattern. Their problems never seem to improve, no matter how much advice, support, or practical help you offer. Their tales of misfortune always seem to be slightly exaggerated. Their suffering always presented as more profound and more tragic than anyone else's. They are emotional vampires, draining you of your energy and using your natural empathy as a leash to keep you tethered to their never-ending cycle of self-inflicted misery. And should you ever dare to hold them accountable for their actions, should you try to establish a simple, healthy boundary, they will turn the tables with breathtaking speed and ferocity. Suddenly, your reasonable request is framed as a cruel and unjust attack. Your attempt to protect your own well-being is twisted into an act of betrayal. They will cry, "How could you do this to me after everything I've been through? You're the one who is hurting me now." In an instant, you have been cast as the villain in their drama. Their failure to change becomes your fault for not being supportive enough. They expertly distort reality to such a degree that you begin to question yourself, wondering whether you were indeed too harsh, too insensitive, or too selfish for simply prioritizing your own mental health. This is not just a simple case of emotional manipulation. It is a sophisticated strategy for control. The Stoics teach a fundamental principle known as the dichotomy of control, that external events are beyond our power, but our own thoughts, judgments, and responses to those events are always within our power. A person who chronically refuses to take responsibility for their own life is not just weak, they are dangerous. This is because when someone never owns their actions, they will always find a way to place the burden of their failures and the consequences of their choices onto you. You become the designated carrier of their responsibilities. So you must ask yourself some honest questions about this relationship. Are you constantly making excuses for their poor behavior? Do you feel a pang of guilt whenever you try to set basic, reasonable boundaries with them? Have you been pulled so deep into their endless cycle of problems that you've come to realize they never truly want a solution, just an endless supply of sympathy and attention? If the answers to these questions are yes, then it is time to take a decisive step back. You are not responsible for fixing someone who refuses to help themselves. You are not obligated to remain in a relationship that is built on a foundation of guilt and manipulation. A person who clings to their victimhood at the expense of everyone around them is not just toxic. They are a direct and ongoing threat to your peace of mind and your emotional freedom. You must recognize the pattern for what it is. Refuse to be controlled by their false and self-serving narrative, and most importantly, summon the courage to walk away. There is a particular kind of poison that does not kill you outright, but weakens you slowly and methodically over time. And it is the fifth red flag: constant, unrelenting criticism, cleverly disguised and strategically deployed. This is not the kind of overt verbal abuse that is easy to identify and reject. Instead, it seeps into your mind through a steady drip of small, carefully placed comments, backhanded compliments, and subtle digs. This person is always pointing out what you lack, but will never acknowledge what you achieve. An evil person will rarely, if ever, celebrate your victories with genuine enthusiasm. No matter how hard you work, how much you grow, or what incredible things you accomplish, it will never be enough for them. If you achieve a significant success, they will find a way to downplay it or diminish its importance. If you show marked improvement in some area, they will immediately shift the goalposts, raising the bar to an impossible height, so that you are always left feeling inadequate. And if you dare to feel a moment of genuine pride in yourself, they will be right there to remind you of all the ways you could have done better, of the one minor flaw in your otherwise stellar performance. Picture this scenario. You spend weeks, perhaps even months, pouring your heart and soul into a difficult project. You push yourself to your limits, overcome obstacles, and finally, you accomplish what you set out to do. You are filled with a sense of excitement and relief, and you are eager to share your success with this person who is close to you. You tell them your good news, and their response is a cold shrug, a dismissive, "Well, that's good, but," followed by a critique of how it could have been improved. Or even worse, they will immediately pivot the conversation to compare your achievement to one of their own, making sure to remind you that they have done more, done it better, and always will. You must understand that this is not constructive criticism. Constructive criticism comes from a place of support and a genuine desire to see you grow. This is a deliberate and malicious act of emotional erosion. A Stoic knows that external validation is fleeting and should not be the basis of our self-worth. We should, as Marcus Aurelius wrote, be like the emerald that says, "Whatever anyone does or says, I must be an emerald and keep my color." However, even the strongest and most resilient mind can be worn down by a constant barrage of negativity, especially when it comes from someone we trust or care about. Evil people understand this psychological vulnerability. They do not want to see you grow and become more confident. They want to see you doubt yourself. They want to plant a tiny seed of insecurity in your mind and then water it daily with their criticism so that over time you begin to believe their corrosive voice more than your own. The most insidious part of this dynamic is that while they are actively diminishing your achievements, they are simultaneously elevating their own. They will boast relentlessly about their successes, their skills, and their inherent superiority, always positioning themselves above you in a carefully maintained hierarchy. This behavior is not just about making you feel small, it is fundamentally about making themselves feel powerful. But you must always remember this fundamental truth: their words do not define you. The Stoics teach us to measure ourselves by our own internal principles, by our commitment to virtue, and by our own personal progress, not by the fickle and often malicious opinions of those who seek to break us down. If someone in your life is constantly criticizing you, yet never lifting you up, you must pause and ask yourself two critical questions. What do they gain from keeping me in this state of self-doubt? And more importantly, what am I losing by allowing them to remain in my life? No one has the right to make you feel unworthy. You must recognize this destructive pattern, protect your mind from their negativity, and never ever let someone else's bitterness become the measure of your worth. Step away from those who only seek to diminish you. Your growth, your confidence, and your light are not theirs to control. If there is one single defining trait that draws a stark and unmistakable line between the virtuous and the wicked, it is empathy. It is the ability to share in another person's joy, to feel a resonance with another person's pain, and to recognize the shared spark of humanity in those around us. This is the glue that binds people together, the foundation of compassion, kindness, and community. But an evil person, for the sixth and final red flag, feels none of this. They operate from a place of profound emotional emptiness, and their indifference is bone-chilling. You can be suffering deeply, breaking under the immense weight of grief or disappointment, and they will stand there completely unmoved, as if they are watching a scene from a movie they have no interest in. If they acknowledge your pain at all, it will be with a cold, clinical detachment. You might hear empty platitudes like, "Well, life's not fair," or "You'll get over it." Or worse, they may expertly twist the moment to make it about themselves, steering the conversation away from your feelings as if your emotions are nothing more than a tedious inconvenience. Imagine experiencing a deep and painful personal loss, the death of a loved one, a devastating professional failure, a shattering heartbreak. In your moment of vulnerability, you turn to this person, hoping for a sliver of understanding, a crumb of comfort for even the smallest display of human kindness. But instead of the comfort you so desperately need, you receive a blank stare, a dismissive shrug, or a thoughtless comment like, "It happens to everyone." In that moment, the stark reality of their lack of humanity becomes impossible to ignore. It is a terrifying void where compassion ought to be. The Stoics teach us to temper our emotions to remain resilient and rational in the face of adversity, but they never ever advocate for coldness or the suppression of our natural human connection. True Stoic strength does not mean a lack of empathy. It means choosing to act with wisdom and compassion rather than being ruled by unchecked passions. Evil people, however, mistake their apathy for power. They see other people not as fellow human beings with rich inner lives, but as objects, as tools to be used, discarded, or ignored when they are no longer useful for their purposes. Their profound emotional emptiness creates a suffocating presence. When you are around them, you do not feel seen or heard. You feel invisible. You do not feel understood. You feel profoundly and utterly alone. And that is exactly how they want you to feel, because your isolation makes you easier to control and manipulate. But here is the truth you must hold on to. You are not small, and you are not invisible. If someone in your life repeatedly dismisses your emotions, refuses to acknowledge your struggles, or treats your very existence as insignificant, they are showing you exactly who they are. Believe them. A person without empathy is not simply emotionally distant or bad at expressing their feelings. They are dangerous. Because if they cannot care about your pain, they will have absolutely no hesitation in causing it. You must recognize this profound absence of empathy as the glaring warning it is. Protect your spirit and never again waste your precious time and energy trying to find warmth in someone who has none to give. The absence of empathy is not just a character flaw, it is a declaration of their nature. Walk away before their emptiness drains you too. I know that this may feel like a lot to take in. Recognizing these red flags in the people around you is not always easy, especially when powerful emotions are involved and when you desperately want to believe in the best in someone. But understanding these signs, truly internalizing them, can save you from years of unnecessary pain manipulation and the slow erosion of your self-doubt. Evil people do not always come with a clear and obvious warning label. They slip into your life unnoticed, masters of camouflage, and begin their work of chipping away at your confidence, your peace, and your very sense of self. But here is the empowering truth: you do not owe your energy, your time, or your spirit to those who only drain you. The very moment you recognize these patterns of behavior, you are presented with a choice. It is the choice to take a step back, to erect boundaries, to protect yourself, and to reclaim your personal power. This choice may be difficult. It may mean walking away from someone you once trusted or even loved, but you must remember this, above all else: your peace is worth more than their presence. If any of this has resonated with you, I want to hear your thoughts and experiences. Have you ever encountered someone who exhibited these traits? How did you handle the situation, or are you still trying to navigate your way through it? Sharing your story can be a powerful act of release for you and a beacon of hope for someone else who might need to hear it. And if you are on a personal journey of self-growth, self-protection, and empowerment, continue to seek out this kind of knowledge. There is so much more to explore about recognizing toxic people, building unshakable resilience, and mastering your own mindset. Until next time, take care of your heart, guard your mind with vigilance, and always, always trust your instincts.